I don't think I have to tell you this, but games by Supergiant tend to look really good, sound really good, and play really good. So what better way to experience them than by watching some nerd on the internet play them for you? I'm Mr. Elbows, and this is Let Us Play Transistor.
Hey, Red. We're not gonna get away with this, are we? Come on, pull. There. Together again. Sort of.
Without any faffing around or anything, you're just thrown into the story, and hoo boy, what a story it's gonna be.
We'll figure something out.
As you can see in our hotbar, we already have two abilities, which we will get to use in combat. And I'll get to that when we get there. Never mind, we seem to have already gotten there. Meet our first enemy of the game, the Jerk. So basically what you have to do is press the right mouse button to execute the selected ability, and the abilities do damage, and that kills the enemy. Except you also have to collect their cells or they'll just respawn like they did there.
East of the bay.
There's out of combat uses for your abilities as well, but they are limited, like destroying parts of the environment to advance.
More of these creeps. Look, don't fret, just...
Okay, now let's get into the meat and bones of the combat system. This is turn. Turn allows you to queue actions and execute them in rapid fashion. However, all actions have a set cost, and if you fill the turn bar, or if you even do anything during turn, the turn bar has to recharge, and you can't do anything but walk when the turn bar recharges. So your best bet is either queuing your actions in a way that will do the most damage, or flat out kill any enemies on screen so that nothing can hurt you while you're recharging, or get yourself as far away as possible from any surviving enemies so that they can't reach you until your turn bar has recharged. For example, against these creeps, as they're called, you can just hide behind cover because their attacks don't pierce it yet. Notice how I said yet.
Whoa, hey.
Keep that in mind.
We're clear. Hey, up there. Hello, world. Look at all that. We're on the edge of town, 100 blocks away. There's the empty set. Still too close to it. We better get as far from there as possible. Come on. Block party up ahead. Here we go.
As you can see, with Breach, you can also free aim, which makes hitting all enemies in a line easier because you don't actually have to target one enemy. And that's actually the main reason to use Breach. Not because it does a shitload of damage, but because you can actually pierce other enemies with it and do damage through walls. It's basically... Breach is one of the abilities you have to keep throughout the entire game, or devise a different strategy that doesn't revolve around Breach. And I'm too lazy to do that
You okay?
now, so I'm not gonna do it.
I see. Sure. She wants to come along. We can use her. She says hello. Her name's Lillian. Intersection.
Anyway, meet one of the most situational abilities in the game, drafted from the body of this dead woman. It's Spark. And it's not good.
Rain's not even
It
on the ballot.
sends a lot of sparkly things flying around in a circle and they explode. And you only ever need it if you're surrounded by weak as shit enemies, which almost never happens.
Warm and clear, second place.
But I'm still gonna use it because as of now we only have 3 abilities.
Where were we?
And
Watch out.
so basically it's 1/3 of our arsenal. And I'm not gonna dismiss that. Also, if you walk up to the terminal like I just did, you are thrown into the one situation where you're gonna need Spark.
No problem.
And even then, you can just kick their asses using Breach. So basically, don't ever use Spark. Ever.
Let's see what else.
Please?
Hey, end of the plaza. It's you. I'm so sorry, Red. They took your voice. I couldn't stop them. Well, we took something of theirs. Hey, let's just go. Come on, just go. Just... yeah. Damn.
Meet the young lady, an enemy that has some odd properties. For one, you can only hit her once per turn. So basically what you've just learned in the fights before, that you can just stack up the damage on one enemy during turn and get an overkill. It doesn't work with the young lady. She can only take one hit before she becomes invincible for a certain amount of time. Also, once you hit her, she'll spawn a clone that will chase you and do damage, and she explodes into a billion cells which instantly become bad cells,
I think I know a place we could
like
get
these
him.
little critters you have to get rid of. Basically, you have to think about when to kill her. Because there are situations where you don't want a million bad cells crawling up to you. Because then you'll have to use Spark, and Spark
Wait a
is
second.
fucking shit. Anyway, puzzle time. This is the only puzzle in the game, and it requires you to go into turn and activate these two, which you never have to do again in the entire game.
Let's pretend that never happened. That who I think it is. Hey, Mr. Moyle, you in there? It's him, all right, but I can barely hear him.
Another dead body looted, another ability acquired. This is Jaunt, and Jaunt is by far the most useful ability in the game. The most useful ability that doesn't do direct damage. Jaunt allows you to dash a certain distance,
Cut off our escape.
and what seals the deal is that you can use Jaunt outside of turn if turn is recharging. That means you can just spam Jaunt whenever you've wasted your turn, and pray that it sends you somewhere away from the enemies, or you can just cover a great distance with it and get away from enemies. Basically, jaunt is your dodge, and jaunt is fucking useful, and I love it. Also, meet the tank type enemy, the jerk. Jerks are basically, they're fat, they're big, they take a lot of hits, and they destroy the environment if they come after you. And your best bet is to get 1 or 2 shots off at them and then start dodging until your turn's recharged, and you can repeat the process, because if you want to get up close and personal with them, you're just gonna lose a lot of HP. And what happens if you lose a lot of HP and subsequently die? I'm not gonna show off just yet, because right now we have to level up. And level up, you get to choose between 2 abilities. I had the choice between Bounce and Cloak, and I chose Bounce because right now Cloak is not gonna do us any good, because Cloak works best if you combo it with another ability, which we can't do yet.
Look at that.
However, we do get to go into the game's main menu for the first time, and we get to rearrange our functions, as our abilities are called. We get to equip functions in a primary slot, in an active slot, which means we get to use them during combat. Or we could equip them in a passive slot, which means they affect our character and things that are happening passively to us. Or we can upgrade active functions with another function. And that's what I'm doing. I'm equipping Bounce to Breach, so it does more damage by doing follow-up hits. This system basically means you get a lot of freedom of what to do with your abilities. You can just pack all of your shit into Breach, or waste your time making Spark useful, or change Jaunt into your main offensive tool, or go completely passive with only Mask and... what was it called? Mask? I think it was called Cloak. Or Cloak and another ability which we get later on. It just leaves you a lot of freedom to do what you want. And also a lot of freedom to run away from Jerk 2.0, because in this game not only do you level up, enemies do so too. And it's usually not a good sign when you first meet a leveled up enemy, because that means they've got a new ability that you're not yet used to. And if you're a new player to this game, they're most likely gonna kick your ass that first time you meet them. In this case, Jerk has now learned how to perform a charge whenever we've done damage to him, so that he can chase us more efficiently. Also, he's now blue. Both Jerk and Creep, however, are no match for Breach. Also, one thing to consider with this game, if an enemy's not on screen, it's not gonna hurt you, because then most of the time you're out of their range. At least with Jerks, that means if you move like 2 meters to the side, they can't hit you if you keep moving. This is where I'm gonna start comparing the game to Bastion, Supergiant's other game, because that's what you do when you discuss Transistor, and point out the fact that in Bastion, sometimes standing perfectly still and sniping enemies from far away with your musket was actually the way to go. In this game, if you stand still, you're gonna die, or at least you're gonna get hurt a lot. You can only afford to like stand still if you're either behind cover the enemies can't breach, or you're far away from enemies so that they have to come towards you, or when you're in turn. That's why turn exists. Because if you initiate turn, you can just leave the game running and go out, get a beer, buy milk or something. Nothing will happen to your character.
E64 on-ramp. 5 blocks down. Take the second right. Do not turn left. And thanks for the lift. Hi. We turned left. Thought we were gonna skip town. We're going back there. You met these things. They do not have a sense of humor. They will track you down, wipe you out, and take whatever's left of me back to those 2-bit Camerata pieces of trash. Look, whatever you're thinking, do me a favor. Don't let me go.